All right, we're live. Baseball only. No break night hangout tonight. This is a live edition of baseball only.
Sir.
JML here. Frank on the other side. What happened to the names? We don't have names anymore. It's ridiculous.
I
We
don't
got to
know.
get back our names. I don't know. The names went away. The names went
I think
away.
they know us now. I think they know us by now. It's okay.
JML, Fire Frank.
What's up, guys?
What's going on? We got a few people in chat. Something happened
Hello.
yesterday. Uh,
Yes. What
number
could it have been? What
99,
could it have been?
yeah, number 99 hit number 62, and the Yankees finished that game 99 and 62. Crazy,
Can't make this
crazy,
stuff up.
crazy. Um, I'm just gonna start off the show by saying, number one, even before we started recording, Frank can probably pull up some text messages. I said very early on, I would say January, February, I said this is Judge's MVP year. This is before the rejected contract talks. You never just have a feeling like someone is like due for a monster year. And I felt like last year he was really starting to come out of certain bad habits that he had at the plate. And I'm like, if he could continue this next year, he's due for a prime year. It's his walk year as well. Me and Frank were pretty much in agreement, and by all measures, he should win the MVP. There shouldn't be an argument about this man winning the MVP. But what bothers me, and it's bothered Frank for several months now, well, Shohei Ohtani should win the MVP. Okay, I'm just gonna invalidate everyone's argument right here. Shohei Ohtani didn't make a difference for the Angels. They would still be a second to last place team with or without him. That's it. Plain and simple. He made no difference. Him and Mike Trout, they have the two. I'm going to say they're the two best players in baseball. Judge is probably number 3 after this year. And they can't get out of the cellar. They're lucky to have Oakland in the division this year. And Oakland decided to sell off the entire team. Or the Angels would have been in last place. Frank, talk me off the ledge here or agree with me. Let's have your take.
Well, I mean, we've talked it for as long as we've been doing this for the last 3-4 months. We've discussed this several times. I mean, and again, I'll say it one more time. We're not taking shots at Ohtani here. We both had him high on our list when we did our top 25.
You had him as 1, I had him
I had
as
him at
2.
1. You had him as 2. So I mean, it's not about that at all. I the goalpost moving that's going on right now. I just can't. And yeah, I know people are going to say you're a fan. Yeah, you're right. There's going to be a bias here. You're correct. Because I watch every game. I watch all his matches. So yes, you're right. Otani is an extraordinary talent. Nobody like him, like they said. But that alone does not win you an MVP. Because if that wins you an MVP, then he's just going to win every year that he's healthy and playing, and then we might as well not even have an award or have a vote. We'll just say, here you go.
Just make it the two-way player award for now on.
It's different. Like if there was nobody else that was, having that great of a year, then okay, I can see it. If Judge was having this year, let's look at who's having this. Who's comparable to Judge right now? Maybe we can look this up in the AL.
No one.
No one, right?
No one.
So say he wasn't playing, say he was out half the year, like he was hurt or something, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. But as you said last year, he finally had a pretty much relatively full season, healthy. I think he was just out with the COVID, I believe, COVID list. And yeah, we knew that once he had a full healthy season, we knew what he was capable of because we saw in 2017.
We are live.
We're live. Yeah, we saw in 2017 what he can do as a rookie. He had 52 home runs, and that was with half a season with a bad shoulder. 2018, he had a freak injury, hit by a pitch. 2019 had a couple of freak injuries. He also had like a broken ribs and all that. Hey, how's it going? Yeah. So
All right, let me
I don't know what we
share.
can say. I don't know what we can say about this subject other than if you got to vote for this award and you're going to make an argument against Judge, I'd like to hear it. I'd like to hear a coherent argument that doesn't involve, well, this guy does two things. Please.
Oh, what's Judge's ERA?
Yeah, if I hear that again. And yes, I understand that the MVP doesn't mean it has to be a player from winning team. We get that. When when a player has such a great year, it doesn't matter. But in some cases, it should matter. When you're having these two kind of players, it should matter. I mean, what else could you say? What else can this guy do? I mean, this guy almost won the Triple Crown, and the only reason he didn't is because he was chasing a home run record.
He was getting walked.
And he was getting walked. As we said, why isn't he getting walked? Well, it happened.
It happened.
It took until the last couple weeks of the season.
They finally figured it out.
They finally figured out don't pitch to him when he doesn't have anybody, when he's leading off and who's batting behind him, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I want to interject here a second. Just to let you guys know, there'll be no Breaknight Hangout since no one is breaking tonight. This show is taking the place of it. So strap in, have some fun, ask some questions, or just listen in. We'll continue doing Breaknight Hangouts on Thursday and Friday and probably Saturday. So let's, this is going to be a baseball-focused show. Hope you guys can learn a few things or interject and put in your 2 cents. This is why we're doing a live show and not a recorded version of the show like we usually do. Let me share some of the... I am not doing personals tonight, Maka. I'm going to redo some of my setup. So tonight's not a good night for it, unfortunately. Here's the thing, Judge cannot do what Ohtani does and vice versa. No, that's I get it. That's exactly what we're saying. But I don't think that's the argument for Ohtani to win the MVP every year, that he's doing something that no one else is doing. That's just me. And in the season that Judge had this year, no one's had for 50 plus years or even ever. I think he has the highest batting average of anyone that's hit over 60 home runs by far. And in a modern era where you have more pitchers, the pitchers throw harder, they don't go as long. Mm-hmm. It's a whole different ball game, pun intended.
And we're in a deader ball era, and with different rules, like you said, with the shift still going. So, yeah.
He had 62 homers. Schwarber had 46. He had 16 more homers than the second place person, on top of the 131 RBIs, 425 on base, 1,100 OPS. Led the league in runs scored as well. And, oh, by the way, 16 stolen bases.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a time we were on the show, obviously many weeks in a row, when there was a big scuffling in the second half. Yet we were just talking about, but Judge is still on a tear. He never really slumped. Even when he had no protection in his lineup, and like you said, and for some reason they continued to pitch to him. I think he had 3 walk-off home runs this year. He had never had one before. He said, like, leading the league in runs scored. That's huge. I think that's something we probably touched on a while back that we thought was possible.
His second half numbers were better, than his first half numbers,
which is nuts.
And the team, if he didn't put up the numbers in the second half, this team might have struggled to win this division. That's why his wins above replacements like 11.3. It's an historical great season. Better than any Trout season. And I love Trout too.
Certainly the best individual season I've seen in my life, for a Yankee, and probably period.
Yeah.
Looking at taking all these numbers to account, I know people are going to say a lot of things, but yeah, it's just been.
So this is Judge. This is the season right here, in a nutshell. Pretty much played every day. Someone asked why isn't he playing? Why is he not playing today? He really has nothing to shoot for. He can't win the batting title. That'd be the only other thing. Just give him a rest. He played so many games in a row, anyways.
Yeah, was it 53, 54 games started in a row for a guy that's got all this weird reputation that people seem to put on him that he can't stay on the field.
Yeah, he played 148 last year. He was only
Yeah, he hasn't had like these chronic injuries. It's all been like freak incidences.
yeah.
He broke his ribs, punctured his lung on diving for a ball once. I mean, for a guy that's as big as he is.
Yeah. So that's his numbers. I mean, look at all the black ink there. It's hard to argue against MVP. But there will be people that give Otani a first place vote, and I expect it. I totally expect it. Judge will not clean sweep the first place votes. And it's kind of sad. Kind of sad. We have a question in chat. Now, the trending argument is 62 the true home run record. I think it's the purest record, but the number is 73. MLB, we've had this discussion on the show previously, and this is the most transparent I can be. The record book says 73. There's no asterisk next to it. That is the record. This is the American League home run record, and to me, this is the cleanest form of breaking Roger Maris's record that we've seen in 60 years. Frank?
Yeah, I know we had a whole episode talking about this. And when we talk about Tatis's suspension, I'm sorry, I'm reading some of those chats. But yeah, like my feeling, like I said, we said the record book shows what it shows, and that's it. And I'm cool with that. We discussed on the show why Bond should be in the Hall of Fame, why all these guys. We've had many discussions. We're not going to really touch on that today. I know, hey, it's what everybody feels it is. For me personally, I'll tell you what it is. It's just for him to have the most home runs hit by a Yankee. That's a big deal. Think about the years this franchise has been around, the players they've had, and there's only been 3 guys that got to the 60 mark.
Yep.
And he's in fine company. Obviously, we saw what Roger Maris Jr. said. I'm not making a big stink about it, but like you said, do I think it's a pure record? Yeah, I guess so. But again, Major League Baseball, they created this problem, and they tried to retroactively, solve it by not putting these players in the Hall of Fame or whatever you think about that. Listen, I know there's been a lot of complaints about the national attention this is received. I've had friends that tell me that why are they cutting into college football to show these at bats? And you got to market it somehow.
Why not?
Why not? We got to market the game. We talked about this multiple times on our show, marketing the game. And MLB does that better than anybody. We know the Yankees love to market their history, and they're selling 10,000 shirts and hats and bats and balls off this.
Well, that's
it's good for the game. It's good for the game. It's always good for the game. McGuire and Sosa in '98 was great for the game.
Everyone knows who Aaron Judge is now.
Yeah.
Everyone. And for the sports card collectors in chat, which most are, look at his cards over the last 4 months. Macamania 808 Rips, for example. Wasn't a huge baseball fan, didn't collect baseball cards. Watched this show, got into some baseball cards, hit a Aaron Judge kaboom from Absolute Baseball. He was like, should I sell it? And I said, no, you should not sell it. I'm like, he's gonna hit 60 plus homers. He's probably gonna break the record. His cards are gonna go through the roof because when you have a home run chase like that, it's gonna bring media spotlight. Whether you like the game of baseball or not, it's going to be forced upon you.
Yeah.
And you know what? Even if it's forced upon people, some of those people that are like, oh, this is out of line. There's some people who are like, hey, like that's this is cool. Like I'm really interested in the game of baseball now. So if you can pick up a couple fans by doing that,
sure,
go ahead and do it. The sport needs all the new blood that it can get.
Mm-hmm.
Macamania said something. Yep, almost sold it It's for PC for the kids when they get old. Yeah, I mean, it's a Aaron Judge has definitely solidified himself as a uh, darling, not only in baseball cards, but I'm pretty sure this offseason he'll be in every single commercial you can imagine,
Sure.
which
He's a
is good for
national
the game.
celebrity now. I mean, yes, being a Yankee puts you a higher perspective, but he's more than just that at this point. Like you said, he's a crossover star. I mean, he's a humble guy. He's got that presence on camera. He
And
can
listen,
whatever commercial he wants to do, he can do.
I like Mike Trout, but Mike Trout
Yeah.
hasn't been the best flag bearer for the game of baseball.
Mm-hmm.
The guy doesn't do any commercials. He really doesn't do that much on social media. He's kind of boring.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't put himself out there. And as the best player in the sport, I think that's kind of your job. Like, you need to raise the stakes of the game. And he hasn't. And what? He's probably been the best player in baseball 6 or 7 years now,
Yeah.
and he really hasn't done much to highlight the game outside of him just playing the game. That's just my take. You guys can disagree with me, but when's the last time you see Mike Trout on a commercial, Mike Trout doing interviews for the game of baseball outside of baseball nationally? It just doesn't happen. I mean, up until recently, there's not been a lot of play. It's been the older guys that have retired, like the Jeters, the Ripkins, A-Rod, Ortiz, Frank Thomas, Griffey, Randy Johnson with the direct TV commercials. We don't see the current players hardly ever. And this crop of current players, we've discussed before, it's some of the best talent we've ever seen. What's up, Ben? What shocked you about this season besides the Judge home run chase? If that shocked you, any team performances shock you this year? You're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, I know we've touched on this stuff a lot. Anything besides the Judge? Yeah, I mean a couple things. We discussed in the last episode the Pujols' sudden rush in the second half after the home run derby, and he's got 702 now. What? He homered his last at bat at home in the regular season. I mean, what else? What else can you say? I wouldn't say it's shocking, but we didn't think it was going to get to this level. What's he got? 25 homers or something like that this year?
Oh, he's ridiculous.
Team performance.
I have a couple.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a couple. I mean, we touched on the Red Sox, how bad they were this season. They were a huge disappointment. Surprises.
The Orioles finishing over 500.
The Orioles definitely. I mean, we talked early about what they can be, but the fact that they're finishing over 500, that's not something we expected to happen this year. Maybe next year, but this year,
yeah, win or lose today, they still finish over 500.
Yeah, pretty insane. Seattle finally making it into the playoffs. I don't know if that's a shock. A lot of people expected them to finally break through after last year, but
but they actually did it.
They actually did it, so that's a pretty cool thing. I won't say Cleveland winning the Central shocked me.
I think it is,
but it's not something you would have picked before the season. So that's
most
definitely
people penciled in the White Sox to win that division,
right? And they didn't even
or the Twins,
and pretty much it was the Twins most of the season, and Cleveland fighting it out for first. So
and then Cleveland just runs away with it at the end of the year, 10 games.
Yeah, crazy.
Over the White Sox. The Twins collapse. They finish 14 games behind.
That's pretty shocking as far as bad performances, underperforming.
I'm surprised Baldelli is not going to lose his job.
Yeah,
I'd be surprised.
Houston, we're not surprised with. Yeah, definitely the Central. Everybody was thinking there was going to be the White Sox year. Instead, what are they? One game over 500. I mean, they're going to have a new manager next year. Who knows what's going on there? As we say, Cleveland. What can you say about Tito? He always manages to get these young players to the playoffs.
And the pitchers.
and pitchers. He's just, I don't know. He's got a knack for this.
No one knew who Steven Kwan was. The guy
Yeah.
comes out and just makes a
Yeah.
late charge for American League Rookie of the Year.
This
He's not going to
pitching,
get it. Julio's
yeah.
still going to get it, but man, he made the argument tough.
Yeah. Man.
The Blue Jays actually finished up pretty strong after firing their manager halfway through the year.
Something we talked about early on. It was a tale of two seasons in the East, but I mean, a month ago that we were full blown panic mode. They were down to 3.5, and they still finished ahead. 8 games ahead of the Blue Jays?
Oh,
It wasn't. It's a tough division, and I've heard a lot about what's the tougher division and all this stuff. But the East was really competitive this year outside of the Red Sox. Yeah. So,
and the Red Sox played well at home. They were 42 and 38, so at least they were competitive at home. Obviously, the Red Sox starting pitching killed them. Killed them this year.
Pitching and just atrocious defense.
Bullpen, the defense.
Like we said before, every other year they seem to get good. So next year you could probably pencil them in to compete for the division title. Well, we'll see about that. Cardinals, I'm not too surprised there. The Brewers kind of disappointed again.
Yeah.
The Padres, for once, they got it done. They got in. Despite having a tough season, being out without Tatis the entire year, they obviously make the big headlines at the trade deadline, which is probably one of the shocks of the season. The fact that they were probably the most active.
It is, but Soto didn't really play up to the back of his baseball.
Yeah, that's another shocking.
The Phillies fired Girardi really early on this year, and we're like, man, are they're waving the flag here? And then Robbie Thompson takes over, and they somehow squeak a wild card berth out of this year, which is I think the first time they're in the playoffs in 11 years.
Yeah, a long drought for them.
Bryce Harper was out for 2 months.
Yeah.
His team really put it together.
Quite impressive. Obviously, we've talked about multiple times about the NL East. I'm not going to toot my own horn here, but we did, I think. I know I myself was very high on the Braves for the last couple of months, and after their bad start, I mean, since June, man, they've been a juggernaut. They were pretty much what the Yankees were early on. They stayed hot the entire summer. The Mets, no slight on them.
Well,
I know, but outside of the fact,
I'll bring up a point here about the Braves.
Yeah,
they're not afraid to call up young players.
How many times we've talked about this?
Strider, Harris, Grissom. All of them came from Double-A. They didn't even play in Triple-A. Helped the team win their 5th division title in a row. The Mets had a big lead. They lost it. Still finish at 100 wins. Great. I still think the Mets are the World Series favorites because of their starting pitching, especially the top 2 guys in that rotation. And the fact that Edwin Diaz has been a lights-out closer, I put my money on them still. Even though the Braves have won the division, I think the Mets can figure it out and get to the World Series. Alonso had a great year. Lindor had a great year. I don't know. There's just something about that team. I'm not a fan of the Dodgers. Their offense, obviously one of the best we've seen in a while. 841 runs scored for the year. Their pitching was a lot of smoke and mirrors. Kershaw's there, but we know how Kershaw performs in the playoffs. There's a drastic difference between regular season Kershaw and playoff Kershaw. If we get playoff Kershaw, the Dodgers will not advance in the playoffs. They don't have the same pitching. I know Arias did well this year, but beyond that, am I going to trust Tyler Anderson? Am I going to trust Gosselin? No. Am I going to trust Kimbrel? I never know what I'm going to get out of Kimbrel. it's a tough proposition to put
Mhm.
all your money and hedge your bets on the Dodgers winning. Frank.
Yeah, I think we've been on the same page about the Dodgers all season. Not like I say, taking away from the season they had, but has a lot to do with, like you said, scoring the most runs, and that's very impressive, no doubt. But I think we talked off air. Us as Yankee fans, we've seen this 1,000 times. Number one offense, number one in home runs, everything, lacking in pitching.
Yep.
And also, I've noticed a lot of these top offenses, they tend to get shut down in October, in the shorts, especially in a short series, and anything can happen. This is a microcosm of a season. If their bats go cold, their pitching is not going to be able to hold them up. I mean, I would even hell, I'll say right now, even name any of these wild card teams in the National League. I think they have a better shot of making a World Series than the Dodgers do.
The wild card teams. Okay.
Yeah, any of them. Padres, even Phillies.
All right, this is the playoff picture. This is what we got. The new format
Yes, sir.
this year. So top two teams have a bye. Best of three series here. Best of three here. Now I get it. What's going to happen is the Mets are going to have to throw Scherzer and DeGrom in this series early, where they don't get 2 games of Scherzer and DeGrom here, but they still get the one each.
Yeah, there was something coming out. There's some talk that Showalter's thinking of something else. If they win Game 1, he may not use DeGrom in Game 2. He may wait until Game 3 if necessary, which is an odd thing, but that's something.
It's
not the worst idea.
It's not the worst idea in the world
because they have Bassett. Bassett's been no slouch himself.
Well, they can even throw Carrasco. They have enough guys. Like Carrasco's pitched in the postseason before.
Sure.
They can even do an opener. They could just be very, very creative. The Cardinals arguably have 2 of the top 3 guys for the MVP in the National League, and Goldschmidt and Arenado. Their starting pitching is a little suspect. Phillies, not as much. That's why I kind of like the Phillies, as long as their bullpen can get it together. David Robertson's been a help for that pen. What's the date for the World Series? No idea.
It's pretty late this year.
Pretty late.
We're going into November, even at the minimum, since we were behind a week.
The Phillies have Wheeler, Nola, Thor. They have some strong arms.
There's a wild card there, so to speak.
The Braves have the tougher second-round matchup. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree. Because I think if the Braves had to play the Dodgers head-on, they'd win pretty handily.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yep.
I
think the Mets can beat San Diego. We have the Mets and Dodgers. Who do we think, Chad? Who do we think is going to win St. Louis and Philly? Who do we think is going to win the Mets and Padres series?
Considering these wild card series are best 2 out of 3 guys, and the higher seed does get all 3 home games, but still best 2 out of 3. That's like a regular series in baseball during the season. So
they do. I just don't have the date offhand.
Oh, I can look it up. I'll look it up for him. But
plus if the series go longer, there's always like emergency dates built into the schedule.
Okay, so the series is scheduled to begin on Friday, October 28th, and it would go as far as Saturday, November 9th. Friday night Game 1. That's kind of interesting.
Wow. So who do we think wins these wild card matchups in the National League?
Yeah, they do pre-schedule the World Series for when it's starting. As far as we're just saying that we wouldn't know offhand, but yeah, it can go as far as the 5th is what I mean.
Now, the American League is very interesting. Houston really hasn't been playing all that great lately, except last night they almost pitched a no-hitter. They 105 wins. That team should have won probably like 112. So they've kind of slacked off as of late.
A little, yeah.
Um,
We talked about Seattle. They've got in. They've
Toronto's
got some
been
nice
red hot.
pitching.
Seattle has not been red hot. They've
Yeah,
kind of
they're kind of back on
treaded
a little bit.
water the last 3 weeks,
They
4
do
weeks.
have a. I do like their pitching still. Toronto's been red hot, like you said, especially at the plate. So, but yeah, I would
What do
say
you
I
think?
like Toronto in that matchup, even though I like Seattle's pitching.
Okay. Because you think the home field in Toronto is going to make a difference?
I think it will. I think it will. We've seen before in the postseason in Toronto, even recently, gets pretty loud in there.
Yep.
They tend to play very well at home. Yeah, I think Seattle is like a team that's just happy to be here. I'm not saying they're here to lose, but I mean, not saying they can't. Like I said, with their pitching, if they shut them down, it's only 2 out of 3. Anything can happen.
It'd be
But
interesting to
I'd be
see
surprised though.
who's throwing game 1
Yeah,
for the Mariners. I would figure it'd be Castillo,
yeah.
um,
We know
unless they
Manoa is like
decide to throw
yeah,
Gilbert
they could.
first. But wouldn't it be very interesting, just an outside the box proposition? Robbie Ray last year pitched for
Mhm.
what team?
Toronto.
Okay. What did he do last year for Toronto?
He won the Cy Young Award.
Won the Cy Young Award. Why wouldn't they just pitch him maybe game 2
Mm.
or even game 1? I get it. It's a real roll of the dice, but that man's already been
Hmm.
there.
Yeah, he's pitched there before. Yeah, pitched well. Had some, a little bit of experience. Yeah, there's a lot of ways you can look at these wild card series. It's not like the old wild card game was one game. This is a little 2 out of 3, but again, anything can happen in these series, even more so than the ALDS or NLDS, which is best of 5. But it's interesting
Curtis,
to see how this works.
Curtis, the resident Mariners fan. Who were the
Nice.
Seattle Mariners throwing
Yeah, what are
game
you
1
throwing
here?
game 1? What do you like?
Oh, I wanna get his take.
Sure.
It's honestly it's a tough series to call. The Blue Jays have been
Yeah.
red hot, led by Bo Bichette.
Came alive. Yeah.
Mariners have owned Toronto all year. Games. When's the last time they played them though? Let's see.
Yeah. I mean, there's always something to be said for that, but October is a different game.
It is. But when's the
I
last
don't
time
think
they
anyone should
played?
ever be too comfortable playing anybody.
This Blue Jay team has definitely been. Robbie is pitching. He's pitching game 1.
Is he? Have they announced
That's a
this? And
smart
I
call.
know the Blue Jays already announced Manoa starting game 1 as expected.
Let me switch to this view while I find.
Yeah, this series does really intrigue me as far as the 2 AL wildcard series. This seems to be the
It
more
could go
intriguing
either
one.
way.
I mean, you
I
can
don't
say the
think
same thing about Cleveland and Tampa. We'll talk about that next, I guess. But yeah, could go either way, even though we said Toronto's been hotter of late. But hey, I've got a good question, guys.
Robbie,
I know he said he
Castillo,
was
and
worried about
Logan.
the Astros. Who do we think? Who do we think
Okay,
would have a better chance of beating the Astros? That's another good question.
so now that Curtis has alerted me to the fact that Ray is pitching game 1, I'm
Yeah,
going to go with the Mariners
taking
winning
the
the
Mariners.
series because he knows that lineup. He's played with them. He won the Cy Young for them last year. I think that gives them the leg up. Castillo, nothing bothers that guy.
Yeah,
And even if they have to go to a game 3, I like Logan Gilbert over whoever Toronto's going to throw game 3 because Barrios has been absolutely awful this year. Like, who's their number 3 starter? Behind Manoa and Gosman, who do they have as their number 3? It's hard to think. It should be Barrios should be actually be their
yeah,
number 1
should be.
starter.
That's the Achilles heel there. We know their offense could score a lot of runs. Their bullpen has actually been pretty good. Yeah, this is a really interesting series. I don't know. I'm kind of torn on this one. I can easily see Seattle winning this for sure, even though you would think Toronto having the home field should give them the edge, but they've been hotter of late. But like I said, these 2 out of 3, anything can happen. This is exciting. This is, I guess, this is what the point. This is what they were trying to do. They've added another exciting weekend here. We've got so we've got that.
Then we got Tampa
and Cleveland.
So the Guardians with the lowest payroll in the sport. Maybe the A's now have the lowest payroll after gutting the entire team, but
still
headed into the season, the Guardians had the lowest payroll in baseball. Win 91 games on the back of their pitching and performances from Steven Kwan offensively and Jose Ramirez, who continues to be one of the most underrated, underappreciated franchise players in baseball.
No doubt.
Tampa Bay, they just always seem to put it together. Analytics-wise, they know how to lefty-righty split shift their way into a postseason berth. They lost. Who did they lose to Tommy John last week? They lost someone to Tommy John, but then got Glasnow back. Who did they lose out of the rotation?
Oh, talking about what's his name? Put me on the spot here.
Escapes me right now. But they get Glasnow back, and then they lose another starter to Tommy John surgery. Eventually, we'll figure out who that person was.
I'll find out right now.
Wander Franco's back.
Let's see. Let's look here. Oh, you're talking about Baz, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Of course. Easy to remember name. Shane Baz.
Yeah, they had Shane Baz go down, Tommy John. They get Glasnow back. Almost like within the time frame of a few days.
Yeah, they just luck into everything, guys. I think their offense has been down this year.
Offense has been way down.
Brandon
Lowe had a bad year. Wander Franco has been hurt basically the entire year.
Just manages to always something about this team. They get the most. They're the team that gets the most out of what they have year in and year out.
I think they had something like over 110 different starting lineups this year, which is crazy. This is the worst Tampa Bay team I've seen in quite a while.
Yeah.
I think Cleveland wins this series. They win handedly this series. The starting pitching for Cleveland is just phenomenal. Their bullpen, when you have Class A, the back end with Karanchuk, that guy, that 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
It's a very scary proposition, especially going against the Yankees the next round. I would rather see Tampa than the Yankees. That's my hot take.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of the opposite for some reason.
And the Guardians. I said the Yankees. I'd rather see Tampa.
I know what you mean. Yeah, and it's funny. I've seen a lot of people saying they'd rather Cleveland. It's just more of this fear of Tampa because we've had trouble with Tampa. This isn't the same Tampa even of 2 years ago, or even of last year that almost went to the ALCS.
They got McClanahan. That's about it.
I mean, yes, they'll play you tough, especially in Tampa. They'll play you tough. It'll be a tight game. But they don't have that scary bullpen, like you said, like Cleveland does. Class A has been pretty much unhittable all year.
The Braves are the defending champs.
Yes, they are.
Arozarena really hasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, he really hasn't produced since the playoffs of 2020.
Right.
Which I'm not going to discuss the 2020 season. Hopefully, I don't have to discuss that season ever again.
Yeah. Less said the better.
You want to talk about Barry Bonds not having the home run record? There's a lot of stuff that year. I mean, including DJ LeMahieu winning the batting title for 60 games. It's kind of a joke.
Yeah.
But I think I think we're going to get Yankees, Guardians, Seattle, Houston in the ALDS, NLDS, Braves and Cardinals, Mets and Dodgers. And then that's where I'm now hearing possibly because in Robbie.
Okay, so there's no.
Well, I'll tell you, Curtis. I like the fact that Robbie Ray would be throwing one or two. It really wouldn't waver my vote of confidence in Seattle because I think he knows those guys so well. Any game that he starts, they're going to win. And Castillo, I've seen that guy pitch on a big stage. Dude is electric. So I think they have it. There's no one in the Blue Jays rotation where I'm like, man, that guy's scary. Manoah is not. He's not an overpowering guy. Gosman's he's almost like a junk baller, Gosman. I think Seattle still has it. But then they didn't send Freeman to the Dodgers. Freeman sent himself to the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And his agent gave him bad advice. His agent told him, the Braves weren't going to offer him a certain contract, and then he took the contract with the Dodgers, and then the Braves traded for Matt Olson and gave him pretty much the same contract. So
yeah, not bad for a backup choice there.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Houston, Seattle matchup, New York, Guardians matchup, Atlanta, St. Louis, Dodgers, and Mets. I'll tell you, I think the Yankees could lose to Cleveland.
Sure.
I think it's a real possibility. Granted, in the past, the Yankees have handled Cleveland pretty well, but this year we've struggled a bit against them. I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some past years, 97, 07. I mean, it's a different Cleveland team, obviously, a lot younger.
Yeah.
But yeah, in a short series, they can scare you. We'll see if their inexperience comes back to bite them.
That's very true.
We've seen that happen in the series in New York early this year. It was all the way back in April where they I believe they swept Cleveland, but they actually got to Class A with 2 outs in the 9th inning.
They have 5 solid starters in the rotation. I'm not saying the Yankees don't either. The Yankees actually do have 5 solid starters.
Yeah.
For me, the question for the Yankees, Garrett Cole broke the single season record for strikeouts for the Yankees yesterday, 257 this year. Led the American League. I think he led baseball in strikeouts. Phenomenal year. ERA high because he gives up homers.
He led baseball in that too, I believe.
And in big spots, do I trust Garrett Cole as a Yankee? Do I trust him as a Yankee? I trusted him as an Astro. Maybe there was reasons behind that. But Garrett Cole might just put too much pressure on himself.
Yeah, I think that's the problem.
He says it every time.
Yeah.
It's almost as if he rehearses it. I was a lifetime Yankee fan. It's almost like it's a built-in excuse for him why he doesn't perform when we need him. And it's not in the playoffs, it's in big spots. It's we need him to be the stopper to stop this losing streak. Then he gives it up. In Boston, forget it. He can't even pitch in Boston.
Yeah, he just gives up homers to anybody, literally anybody, even guys you've never heard of. I think he does put too much pressure on himself, and for some reason, he just can't compose himself after something happens in an inning. So if there's a big error, if there's somebody ran on the field, and when they were playing the Angels, he gave up the game-winning homer to Ohtani. He can't seem to put it together. He's pitched well in the playoffs before. He's pitched well for the Yankees in the playoffs. I mean, even though we're not going to count 2020, but
I don't count.
We don't count it. But there was less pressure, like you said. Then he has the stuff to be a top starter in baseball. He does. Like I said, we talk about leading leagues, the big strikeouts. He is a horse. He does go a lot of innings, maybe sometimes too many. I think we talked about earlier in the season. But for him to finish 8 losses.
He was like 12-8 or something.
Yeah, that's just odd.
It was the kind of season you look and go, man, he did great. I mean, you look at the strikeouts and you're like, wow, he led the league in strikeouts, which means he has overpowering stuff.
He did, and he did have some games where he looked unhittable. I was at one of them and was through a perfect game. It's you never know, like you just said. I don't think he's a terrible pitcher. He still has good stuff. I know we talked about reasons why he might have been better in the past, but he still has the stuff. He just seems to have this mental thing where he gets into trouble. He thinks he has to be too fine. He tries to then he just throws a fastball down the middle and they cream it.
Yep.
He hangs a pitch.
Hangs it.
He's got to be smarter.
So
if he was a little smarter, he'd be.
Let's say Seattle beats Toronto. They advance ALDS versus the Astros.
I can see either way there, but I see your point on why you're favoring Seattle. I'm not 100% sure myself, but I can see that happening.
Cole, question mark? I mean, he is a question mark, but Garrett Cole in a big spot with the Yankees has been a question mark. I know most people watched his performances with the Astros, and he did well. He did really well. However, in these big games and matchups with the Yankees, he has not performed to the ace status that he does have.
Yeah.
You were talking about, we're talking about Garrett Cole.
Yeah, even compare him to, when CeCe got that big contract and came over here. He struggled a little bit, but when push came to shove in the big moments, he usually showed up, even late into his career.
Garrett Cole has a bit of Roger Clemens as a Yankee in him.
Yeah, that's good comparison.
Too much pressure on himself. They get overamped. They get overexcited. And they give it up.
And this year has been a lot worse. And there was no injury issues of this year really to speak of. So it's been mostly himself beating himself.
What's up, Justin?
So, I mean, there's a big argument right now who should start game 1. So I know we could probably discuss that to the cows.
There's an argument it has to be Garrett Cole. You're not paying Garrett Cole 36, whatever.
No, I'm not. I wouldn't see them in any other way. I understand.
It has to be Cole, and then you pitch Cortez second or Sevy second.
I mean, you could depending on the matchup. I mean, but again, who's pitched in the postseason before? You did bring that up. Cortez has not.
Yeah.
Whatever he has been. If he did pitch in 2019, he was out of the bullpen and mop-up work. So, Severino obviously has pitched in the postseason before. He's had some great starts. He's had some not so great starts. I think he's a key to their success.
Randy, please use some context because you're throwing me off with your Cole. You're saying Cole should pitch game 1? Just give us some context.
That's fine.
There we go.
Nestor
and Sevy. Okay. My only apprehension is Nestor hasn't pitched in the postseason. At least Sevy has. I'm definitely not putting Montas in there.
Yeah, I don't think that's even a consideration at this point.
Tyone's probably a mop-up man.
You would.
I don't know what he is. I don't know what his role is.
I mean, he would just. If they have to go with another starter, it's not always. I know the way the schedule's set up. I know there's less off days. He might, if they need a 4th starter, it would probably be him. I don't think they would give it to Herman. But he's another guy. He's another guy who's had a home run problem for some reason, especially in the second half. Oh yeah, Montas is another thing. I think he's
on the books for another year.
We agreed months ago this was a bad idea, and it pretty quickly turned out to be true. I think first of all,
the clubhouse.
Yeah.
Listen, I actually think Nestor's best role would be a super reliever, but they're not going to do it.
They're not going to do it. But yeah, if they had another, if they had gotten a Castillo, then you might have seen that. Especially, and like you say, he's not pitched in the postseason before, and he's also over his career innings. There's a reason why he went on the IL a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and Randy, you bring up a great point. Britton out,
Yeah,
Maricano out, all these
yeah,
guys with injuries. Chapman ineffective.
that's another concern.
Who's the closer at this point?
There is none.
Is it Peralta? Is it Schmidt? Is it Loizaga? Who's closing out games for this team?
That's a problem. I mean, very, very rarely do you see a team that doesn't know who's the defined closer succeed too much.
Going
Yeah,
into the year, the Yankees bullpen was looked at as a strength, and it's
and it was for quite a
quickly
while.
become a weakness.
Yeah, the biggest. Yeah, I mean, they lost King. They lost Greenman before that, but King was probably like he was this year's phenom, and losing him really hurt.
I'll close. Where do I sign up? I don't know.
Holmes was an all-star. I think he got hurt and just overuse and just maybe he just he's a sinker ball pitcher. He's not really a closer.
No, he's Derek Lowe.
Yeah,
Like he's that kind of guy. Like
like
remember when Derek Lowe
yeah,
was a closer, and
hmm
then the league figured him out, and he became a starter again.
yeah. He
Um,
might be. You're right. Holmes might be a guy who was better suited to be a starter. Um,
could really use
he filled in. He
Ottavino.
filled in
That's
admirably for a
because
couple months, but
Ottavino, he had that. Was it 2020?
what's that?
What did Ottavino have the really bad year? 2020 with the Yankees.
Yes, the
He
second
just
year.
was ineffective, and they just let him go. That was
Yeah,
basically, and he went to Boston last year, found his way on the Mets this year. I always liked him. He just in 2020, the season that we don't want to talk about, he just got lit up. And there was no one in the stands, so it's hard to know why some of these guys didn't perform in 2020.
I
You'd
think a lot
figure
of
everyone would have been lighting it up in 2020. Uh,
there's a lot
we
of
have
reasons.
Houston, who I think, whether they face off against Seattle or Toronto, it all rests on the shoulders of Verlander. If Verlander's Verlander, they're going to be a very hard out because he really solidifies that rotation.
Sure, what they didn't
Um,
have last year.
1.75 ERA. He's clearly going to win the Cy Young. Had some health. JJ Putz is available. Dude, I liked him. He was on my fantasy baseball teams for a couple of years. Um, it's tough. It's a tough call.
Mm-hmm.
I think Houston can be had.
Yeah, it just if you can beat Verlander,
It's hard to beat them in Houston.
yes,
But I'm not trying to be controversial when I say it, but they're a very tough out
yeah,
at their home park.
they are
Someone's gonna have to steal a game or two from them to win.
right.
So if Verlander, for whatever reason, has a really bad game one, or he's not his normal self, or Castillo or Gilbert or whoever's going to match up with him game one, they have to match him pitch for pitch, inning for inning. The key is going to be the game one. As much as I hate to say it, I think Houston will advance to at least the ALCS this year. Yeah, he's out for the first round.
Mm. Yeah, I think we've always had
Marinaccio.
them at least going. Yeah, Marinacio's out for at least the first round. Um, apparently he was having this issue on and off. I'm not sure why he was pitching then, but
Yeah, they have underrated guys like Kyle Tucker, who no one
yeah,
talks about. That guy's a phenomenal
yeah. I
baseball
think I
player.
mentioned him in my top list as a upset pick.
Jordan, he had a
Jordan,
couple
of
health
course.
issues this year, but he still almost had 40 bombs, 100 ribbies. He's phenomenal. And they still have the cheaters on the team. They still have Altuve and they have Bregman. Um, sorry, that's what they are. They're cheaters. And I would say, and at Toronto, they have Springer, major cheater. Uh, it for me, yeah, they advance. I just can't see. those teams taking them out. It's going to be very hard for any team to take Houston out. They hit, as Curtis said, runners in scoring position. They move runners. They steal bases. So Houston, ALCS. I'm going to pick against the Yankees. I'm going to go with Houston and Cleveland, ALCFs. That's my matchup for the ALCS. What's yours, Frank?
Ooh. Put me on the spot here. Yeah, I know we talked about this a long time. I think our only concept was that Houston was going to be in the ALCS, and I think we both picked them to win not too long ago.
Yeah,
win the AL championship. Yeah, I think it's it's tough. I don't know, but we don't know what Yankees team we're going to see show up next week.
Oh, we don't.
That's the thing. And we're realists on the show, guys. We're not being homers here. We're realists.
Listen, it might be too much rest for any of these teams.
Yeah. I think you're right about Cleveland might give them a harder time than Tampa. I don't know why everybody's going to this. Well, the Tampa is played really well at the Yankees. But if you look at it this year, they haven't really, especially in New York. The one series they did win here is when they were having their real doldrum slump. But every other time they faced them here, they pretty much dominated them. So, yeah, if Tampa managed to win that series, then I would say the Yankees are my easy pick to go to the ALCS. Cleveland, I don't know. All I can say is that it's just anything can happen here. I'm just gonna say it's felt like it's all year long since we've been even longer than we've been doing the show. We've been discussing even since spring training. It feels like they've been on this collision course with the Astros. So I would not be shocked to see that matchup again.
So you're going to go with Houston?
I'm going to go with Yankees Houston just because it feels like it's a collision course, even though I can very easily see Cleveland upsetting them for the reasons we already mentioned. I'm a little close on it. I'll just say that just to be a little bit of a contrarian here. Let's not forget the Dodgers. That's a real team as well. Yeah, are they though?
Curtis, the only thing I will say about the Dodgers this year is their starting pitching has had some smoke and mirrors. Kershaw is playoff Kershaw and regular season Kershaw. They're two completely different animals. And he's their number one starter or number two, with Arias being number one or number two. Arias has to really grasp that role as an ace. And he hasn't before because they had Walker there. He's out. So it depends on how he performs. If he goes out game one or game two and gives it up, I have zero confidence in Kershaw in the postseason. Mm-hmm. He may start off a game great, but then it comes like the fourth or fifth inning, and then he just gives it up. I have zero confidence in Kershaw in their starting pitching, and then their bullpen. Craig Kimbrell, that guy is very unreliable. He's statistically one of the greatest closers of all time, but man, gives you a headache out there. It's runners on base. It's just,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if they have enough. Like, they have the offense. The offense is one of the best offenses in the history of baseball. But we've seen great offenses go silent in the postseason.
Mm-hmm. Which is what, yeah. And that's honestly, that's what concerns me with the Yanks as well. Is this if their offense doesn't score, they have a hard time, even if their pitching is good. You got to be able to score. And October is not easy to score. Everybody talks about small ball, you can't hit home runs, but October there seems to be a lot of big home runs that win games. Ask Chapman.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I think for a while ago we had our early World Series picks. I'm not deviating from what I said 6 weeks ago, whenever it was. So I still have a Houston versus the Braves matchup.
He did win, but winning one game doesn't mean you're a great postseason pitcher.
Let me put it this way: if Kershaw wasn't playoff Kershaw in 2017, maybe the Astros wouldn't have had to worry about a fake World Series title. But we've seen multiple times over the years. For every one good game he pitches in the playoffs, he just lays an egg, and he's not getting any younger. But I mean, yes, it is October. Anything can happen. We've seen weirder things before. Like the Nationals won the World Series 3 years ago somehow. Yes, I know they were much better players at the time, but I'm just saying. Yeah, I'm still sticking with what I said before. Where I think we're seeing a rematch in the World Series this year, but regardless of who makes it to the LCS against Houston.
And remember, in 2020, there was no one in the stands.
Yeah.
There was very little pressure. That's why I'm saying that 2020 season was a completely different animal.
Yeah, there's no fans. I mean, the World Series had limited fans. It was a neutral park. We can't. Yeah.
Even
and honestly, the Braves should have been in that series anyway. They choked away that lead against the Dodgers that year. That's the only way they got
even with the 4-1 mark that postseason for Kershaw, he's still 13-12 in the postseason with a 4.19 ERA. So way down from what he does in the regular season.
Yeah. I mean, what else can we go by besides, track record? Yes, things can change. Yes, A-Rod can have a magical 2009 postseason, but it's just, you got to go with the track record. That's all we can do. We're just predicting here. We can't.
Yep. I think we're going to end up getting the Mets, Dodgers.
Yeah. That's Mets Dodgers, I think, is an obvious matchup. We talked about how the Phillies could upset the Cardinals, but I think the Cardinals will. You know what? I'm going to go with the Phillies. You know what? I'm going to be different. I'm going to go with the Phillies.
You're going to go with the Phillies?
I'm going to go Phillies Braves just because. Just because I just have a feeling there's always an upset. And that's the only real, I would say, upset here, unless the Padres were able to knock off the Mets here. That would be my true upset. Like we said, Seattle Blue Jays can go either way. Cleveland should win, but if Tampa won, we wouldn't be really surprised. Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen.
Play really well at home, and those fans are just going to be absolutely bonkers.
Yeah. Either way, so I said Philly Braves. Yeah, I'll say Philly Braves just because, just for old time's sake. You never know. I'm going to make my little upset pick of the tournament here.
Okay.
We're going to see something. We're bound to see one upset in this short wild card series, so I'm going to take that.
Cool.
Even though St. Louis does have all 3 home games, so they should be favored.
I'm going to go with what I've been saying for most of the year. The Mets would advance to the NLCS. They'll beat the Dodgers. I think there is a collision course between the Braves and the Mets.
Sure.
For the NLCS. And it's really going to come down to how the Braves utilize Spencer Strider.
Mm.
He's going to be the super reliever guy that we've been talking about for some of these other teams. He may be the X factor for the entire postseason. If he's as good as he was in the regular season and the postseason, the Braves might be a real tough out.
I can see them using him. I can see them using him like that. Like I'll bring it back to like the Royals when they won the World Series, the way they used their bullpen.
Yep.
That's what I see there. He's an X factor, and the Mets should have the favorite because of their pitching, like you said. If those 2 guys are pitching like they should be, and Bass can just be good, they should be able to take it.
Diaz is the best closer in the National League this year.
But there is something to say for recent events too. So they're definitely on a collision course. Just it would be shocking if they don't meet for the.
Is Kenley Jansen going to be able to close games?
That's another question
for the Braves.
That's a big.
Or are they going to have to put Spencer Strider in the role where he needs to go multiple innings and get a save?
Yeah, I think it will come down. You're right, to the bullpen. If whether or not they can knock off the Mets, if the Mets are there and they're pitching well as they should be, that will be the big difference, I think, in the matchup.
So my World Series prediction, I'm just going to stay the course of what I said throughout the year. It's going to be the Mets and Astros in the World Series, but the Mets winning the World Series in 6 games. That's going to be my World Series prediction. Put you on the spot there, Frank. Your prediction.
Yeah, I'm going to say. Well, before I say it, I'll say again. We know what I said just recently. I think I'm going to stay the course, but I think I think whoever wins the Mets and Braves NLCS, which is going to happen, I believe, whoever wins that is going to win the World Series against whoever they're facing. In my opinion, I'm sticking. It's tough to repeat. I know that there's some kind of magic with the Braves this year. I'm sticking with them. I know we talked about it a couple weeks ago. Maybe they could be the best team, arguably. We talked about how they use their rookies and bringing people up, signing guys long term early. They've just been the hottest team, and sometimes you need to have that. And they've been hot for months.
They just
seem
need
to have this magic.
They need to figure out that bullpen.
Yeah, the bullpen is key. I think that's where I get a little hesitant because you did bring them up. But I'm going to stick with it because you got to stick with it. I'm not going to flip flop here. Obviously, after the first round, we might have to change some of our minds. You never know. But yeah, I'll stick with that for now. I still think the Astros are going to be in the AL. So
you're doing Astros Braves.
I'm doing a rematch, like I said, and I'm gonna pick the Braves in 7 games.
Wow.
I think we could have. I think it could be a classic.
Back-to-back championships.
Yeah, even though I know it's very unlikely, but I think they've been the best chance to do that. I think they have it.
They've played the most consistent since their rough start to the season, where they were counted out.
They were under 500. I think they set the record. They had the worst record through 50 games for a team that went on to win 100 games.
Yep.
So, yeah, obviously I can see the Mets, and this is not just me not wishful thinking. I know people will say I'm a Yankee fan, but something about the Braves. The fact that, especially after what happened this past weekend, that solidified my thoughts. Huge series, sweep for them, obviously, to win the East.
I don't believe in this Yankee team enough, and I haven't all year, to put them in the World Series.
You have not. You've been stuck by it the whole time. There's been times where they look like they can beat anybody. There's been times where they couldn't beat anybody.
I think if they had a healthy Severino, with Cortez, and they would have traded for Castillo and not Montas, they would have been the clear World Series favorite.
Yeah, we talked about that. That again, it could come down to, like you said, not making the proper trade for the right pitcher. We've seen this before. I said at the time, this just had shades of that Cliff Lee trade that never was.
Seattle wasn't scared to trade their minor leaguers to get Castillo, and the Yankees were.
We were, and we were afraid to trade, even though we brought them up now for some reason.
Well, they've played now.
Cabrera especially has played quite a bit.
And Peraza's
played a little bit lately. I think they purposely didn't want to play him too much because I think he might have played himself onto the team. They weren't ready for that. I'll be honest. That's what I think.
Well, I'll tell you, Peraza and Cabrera, they're major leaguers already. Yeah. So next year, I fully expect them both to make the team.
Yeah.
But they should play in the postseason. There's no reason why those two kids can't get time, even if it's on the bench, pinch run, whatever.
Sure. Just the experience alone. Right now, who are you going to start in left field? Cabrera has shown he can do it. You're going to tell me you're going to make an argument for starting Hicks, who earlier today I see again he turned a single into an RBI double because he doesn't know how to play the outfield.
And Aaron Hicks had a weird quote in the media if they want to get rid of me, they can get rid of me or something.
This guy's gone already mentally. This guy's already mentally checked out. You don't need that on your team.
It was pretty much what Joey Gallo said before we traded him.
Joey Gallo. Yes, I see a lot of that talk about. Oh, they made a stupid trade. Has died down rather quickly, shockingly enough.
Listen, at the end of the day, as much of a homer I am, I'm also a realist.
Yeah, we got to be realists.
This Yankee team they're not a World Series team. They had a great year from Judge that catapulted them to winning this division. Nestor Cortez pitched over his head. Clay Holmes had a great first half as a closer, but we saw in the second half there was holes that the Yankees they couldn't fill, and they struggled in August. Had this team even played 500 ball in August, they probably would have finished with more wins than the Dodgers. And even if they finished with more wins than the Dodgers, I still don't think they're a World Series team. They lack, unless Garrett Cole can be Justin Verlander or Scherzer in this playoff this year, they have no shot. He needs to be one of those guys.
Yeah.
Or even what Strasburg did in the World Series for the Nationals.
Sure.
You need that kind of performance from your ace pitcher. And we haven't got it from him.
This has been the whole story of this last, whatever you want to call this era, since maybe if you want to bring it back to 2017, before Boone got here. This was a team on the verge of greatness. It could never quite get over the hump. Like you said, it could never fill the holes they needed to fill. They signed Cole to the big deal. They don't find someone else to complement him.
Nope.
I mean, we could talk about Cortez. Yeah, it's a great story. Love the guy. Been fun to watch all year. But again, he's playing, like you said, over his head, much like they were earlier in the season.
Yep.
We knew they weren't that good, but they also weren't as bad as they looked in August. They're somewhere in between.
I think the game is ending or ended.
They started at 4:00, so it's very likely that it's ending right about now. But
for me,
okay,
I think the Yankees' future is in the off season. I mean, it really is. Besides the Judge scenario, which is the ultimate decision that has to be made.
Yep.
And to me, it's not even a decision. It's I saw the T-shirt printed. I don't know if you have it yet, but it literally is a T-shirt that has a blank check on it. Aaron Judge.
There was a jump one.
If they don't give that man whatever he wants at this point, I just truly don't understand the Steinbrenners and the ownership team.
Yeah.
You gave A-Rod after the 2007 season.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he opted out too. You gave him all the money in the world.
And he even finished
A-Rod was older. You're not going to do the same thing with Judge? Come on now. After 62 homers, 130 ribbies, historical great season where he's going to win the MVP, you're going to let that guy, and we're currently the face of baseball, you're going to let that guy go to another team? You let him go to the Red Sox, you let him go to the Giants, you let him go to the Mets, you let him go, I don't know, Chicago Cubs.
I mean, this goes back to our very first episode. What's the first thing we talked about?
Judge is going to leave.
Judge is going to leave. Where's he going to go? And I think
he's played himself so well now with this media that the Yankees have to go over budget.
Yeah, they have to
sign him.
And it's not as though they won't have money coming off the books next year. They can afford to sign him.
They have all this youth on the in the minors.
The youth will help them. They have all this youth coming up. They didn't trade anybody. They're keeping these guys, so there's no excuses. Yes, you're going to overpay him. Yes, he's going to be here longer than he should be. But what can you do? This guy is like a god in Yankee lore now. You can't walk away.
You can't let it was like if you let Jeter walk out the door.
Right. And they almost did, didn't they?
He almost did.
Bernie almost went to the Red Sox at one point. I mean, but this is we're not going to say he's like bigger than Jeter, but he's on that level. He's face of the franchise.
I mean, Frank, he's very close.
He's very close, yeah. But I'm just saying,
very close.
I have to be conservative here because it's he's still young relatively, but yeah, you can argue that he's the best player they've had in a generation, or even maybe two.
He's one of the best players they've ever had.
Yeah, he's literally the top of the conversation now. So you can't let that go. And then, especially if we see what's coming up here in the next week or so, if another early exit in the postseason, you can't sell that and then sell that Judge is going to leave and go back to, I think what you mentioned a couple weeks ago, that they would probably try to say, well, we're going to have the youth movement. I'm like, it's first of all, yes, the fans are going to be hard on you enough, but if you let him walk, you're going to lose a lot of people. I'll be honest. I'm going to lose a lot of interest. They let that happen.
It would be ridiculous after all
Can't
of
do it.
the money that's coming in for the Judge home run chase that they can't turn around and sign this guy to a contract.
Dude, I literally got like 10 emails as soon as this happened last night with all the stuff they're selling of this guy's name. And like you said, commercials he can do it, guest spots, cameos in movies for all we know.
Yeah.
He's a face of baseball, not just a face of the Yankees, face of baseball. His face is plastered everywhere. They make more money, and all the money they made of him already in 6 years. And you know how much the Yankees have paid him? I think I looked. It was something around $35 million they've paid this man.
Total. While next year, Shohei Ohtani gets getting 30 in his walk year arbitration.
My point being is they could have extended him a long time ago and saved him a lot of money. I think me and you talked about it even 5 years ago when he won the Rookie of the Year. Why don't they just lock him up like all these other teams?
They play this game and it burns them.
Yeah, and we knew it was going to burn them because the same year, they were going to have to. At the time, there was a talk. Oh, they're going to have to make a decision because you're going to have Judge and Sanchez. This is back when Sanchez was still the hot thing, guys. There was going to be a decision to be made this year.
Decision.
Yeah, I mean the guy in his rookie year had a section in the stadium named after him.
Yeah.
You can't tell me then that he wasn't worth the pay money then? I don't blame him for turning down the contract. It was an insult. Do I think he wants to leave? No, he doesn't.
He doesn't want to leave.
Would he like to play for the Giants? Sure, I'm sure that'd be cool for him. Does he want to do it? No. I can't see it.
It's Curtis. I mean, Curtis, in all seriousness, isn't it crazy that this discussion is even being had?
It shouldn't be even had.
But it's true. Like, as Yankee fans, you guys might think we're spoiled, but this current Yankees ownership group, they've done a lot of head-scratching things. Like, they'll make just enough moves, but they won't do a move that puts them over the top.
Every year.
All the time.
They always go for
even when they signed Garrett Cole, they had all this money that came off the books anyways. So it was like they took the old money and just made new money.
I mean, this team didn't even sniff this past off season when you had all this talk of this the greatest shortstop free agent class you've ever seen.
Well, in hindsight,
it was a good idea.
Smart.
Yeah, no, in hindsight, it was a good idea, but I'm just making a point. Yeah, in hindsight, it worked out for them.
The Yankees have 3 legit young
people can play the position.
Guys that can play shortstop.
So I get it. That makes sense. I'm just saying we're making a point how they wouldn't even consider anything. It wasn't just because they had that. I don't think they wanted to spend the money.
No, they don't want to spend the money.
The reason why they traded for Stanton in the first place is because the Marlins were going to take care of some of that money.
Yep, I think that ends soon, but
yeah, it's head
Judge,
scratching.
What kind of contract do we think Judge is going to get now?
That's a good question. I think that
is he going to get 10 for 500 at this point? You think he's going to go to age 40 season?
I mean,
that's the contract.
He's obviously upped that number. That's why he knew. Okay, I mean, he turned down that number for the season. Even before he had this season, whatever they offered him was way too low. He could have got more than that on the open market last year.
8 for 400.
Yeah,
8 for 400, and then you have 2 additional years that he could options.
It depends. I don't know. We don't know if he said is 10 years his sticking point, because we know there's going to be a team out there that'll throw 10 years at him.
They might not throw $50 million per year though.
But they will throw. Yes, that's another thing. What does he want more? He's obviously going to have to be the highest paid player on the team, so he's got to be making more than Cole, who averages 36.
He needs to be the highest paid player in baseball, so he needs to be paid more than Scherzer's $45 million.
So
right, so $45 million is the starting point for these conversations at this point. You have to give him at least 50. It sounds crazy.
Sounds crazy.
In free agency, you're always paying for past performance.
Yeah. And it's not like somebody will pay him this. Somebody will pay. People are thinking, no, it's not. They're not overpaying. Somebody will pay him this.
The Giants would pay him it.
Giants would pay him it. I mean, this is not another Cano situation where again, look what he got for the player he was. But I'm just saying, and that was, but this is not that. Yeah, that was tough at the time. The fans didn't like it, but in hindsight, it turned out to be the right move. But this is not the same player we're talking about. So
Yeah, I think he would take 8 years on the Yankees over 10 years on the
yeah,
Giants or
sure.
something like that,
If they
or the
take that
Red
extra money,
or the Reds. Like, I can't see him signing with the Red Sox.
no.
Like, I just can't see that.
I think he's going to wait to see what these offers are, and he's going to say, "Okay, this is what they offer me. What are you going to do about it? You got to make him an offer." This is the
I
Godfather
think Houston
now.
makes him an offer.
Interesting.
They've been quiet.
They've been very quiet. There's going to be some team that you don't expect.
You know the Mets are going to make him an offer.
We know the Mets are going to make him an offer, whether or not they think he's going to take it. They're going to make an offer. The Red Sox will make an offer for the very least of just driving up the price.
Phillies?
Hey, look, there's going to be a team you're not thinking of that's going to make an offer here. It could be any of these teams.
I can't see the Dodgers. They've already have $300 million tied up in contracts, unless they get really creative and like trade someone.
Yeah.
It's not going to be Tampa. It's not going to be Cleveland.
No.
It could be the Cubs. Could be the White Sox. Tony La Russa retired. He should have stayed retired, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out why, number one, White Sox ownership thought he was a good fit to manage that team. And two, why did Tony La Russa think he was a great fit to manage that team? He's basically 80 years old, Caucasian gentleman, managing a team of 75% Latin players. And it shows Miguel Cairo managed the team better than La Russa.
Yeah. In that case, it was just like a case of them saying, "Oh, we're going to sign him because he's such a legend," which he is, one of the all-time best managers. But time for him is beyond time for him to say goodbye for good.
Yeah, the La Russa hiring was just baffling.
If they were really serious, there's a lot of picks they could have made. That did not show that they were serious to me.
But all right, guys, we're gonna end it here. There's no break night tonight. This is the only show. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Have a good one. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.